Welcome back. This critique focuses on the rapid departure of Xabi Alonso from Real Madrid after just 8 months and what that immediately means for clubs like Liverpool and Tottenham. So let's just jump right in. I think the biggest opportunity here is really about redefining the central narrative.
Okay.
To really elevate this, the story has to pivot away from just, a list of bad results. It needs to focus on that core conflict between Alonso's very modern tactics and Real Madrid's, its deep-rooted culture of managing huge star players.
I completely agree on that conflict. I mean, the submission does a really good job setting up that tension. You have Alonso hired for his tactical nous.
Right.
Which was a clear contrast to Ancelotti, who was all about man management. But here's the thing. It kind of treats Alonso's tactical problems, the high press fading, the form of Vinicius, and his locker room issues, as these two separate things happening at the same time.
As parallel tracks.
Exactly. And I wonder, by doing that, are we missing how one directly caused the other?
Oh, absolutely. That's the key. All the pieces are there in the submission, but they haven't been assembled into that climax yet. So the suggestion here is synthesis. We need a core thesis that says, basically, Alonso lost the dressing room because he couldn't manage those egos. That was the one thing Ancelotti mastered. And that failure is what stopped him from ever getting his tactical ideas off the ground.
So the man management issue wasn't just another problem.
Not at all. It was the lever that made the whole tactical system just crumble.
Okay, that synthesis really sharpens the whole piece. If we're going with that thesis, that the failure of control led to the failure of the tactics, how do we, really show that? We need a moment the reader can latch onto.
A defining moment.
Yeah, and I think one way to do it is with the Kylian Mbappé Guard of Honor incident. That moment of public defiance. That should be framed as the point of no return. The proof that his authority was just gone.
Oh, that's perfect. It's the perfect micro-narrative, isn't it?
It is.
I mean, if your star players won't even perform a symbolic gesture for you, what authority do you actually have left to demand they buy into a really demanding high-press system?
None.
That one clip, you could frame that as the tactical death certificate. It's the moment the players just decided, nope, not worth the effort.
Exactly. And then you can directly connect that to the other reports. The piece mentions 4 or 5 senior players voicing concerns. Well, let's tie that explicitly to the awful form of Vinicius Jr. and Rodrigo Goes around the same time. It's not a coincidence. It shows that once that internal faith is gone, the on-field plan it completely falls apart. You can't play that style without total buy-in.
That's a crucial layer to add. It shifts the whole narrative from, bad results got him sacked, to something much deeper, like cultural failure, sabotage, tactical innovation. Okay, so let's pivot from that and look at how the piece is actually put together, the structure.
Right.
Because the global impact of this is huge, and I feel like it's being buried a bit. The urgency of this whole story is just massive. We need to restructure the materials so it screams breaking news from the very first line. It has to be reorganized to immediately hit the reader with that huge so what factor, Alonso's sudden availability, instead of, walking through his failures chronologically.
Okay, I get the need for urgency, but won't leading with the Liverpool and Tottenham links feel a little sensationalist? I mean, the material right now builds the case. It talks about the 4-0 to PSG, the 5-2 from Atletico. It gives you the context first. Are we at risk of sacrificing that necessary background if we just ditch the timeline?
That's a fair challenge, but I think we can do both. It's about using a proper news structure. You lead with the biggest, highest impact development.
The inverted pyramid.
Exactly. You announce the sacking, and then you immediately pivot to the domino effect. The fact that Liverpool have apparently made direct contact, and he's being linked with Spurs and United. That's the headline for most of Europe. Right now, that's buried. And we risk losing that broader audience before we even get to the really juicy stuff.
I see. So we flip the script.
We flip the script.
Instead of Alonso failed and now he's available, we start with Alonso is available, which is destabilizing everything, and here's why he failed. That shift in focus that's key.
It is.
So the concrete example is pretty simple then. The links to Liverpool and Spurs, the direct contact, the formal talks, that stuff needs to be right at the top immediately after the sacking is announced.
Exactly. That maximizes engagement from the jump. And then all that great historical context, the Barca loss being the final straw, the earlier defeats, that all serves as the background, the justification for why he suddenly became available.
Right.
It shifts the focus from Alonso failed at Madrid to Alonso is the biggest managerial story of the week for 3 massive clubs.
The structure has to reflect the weight of the news.
Okay, yeah, that restructuring really does establish that immediate relevance. Now that brings us to the section on the internal politics at the Bernabeu.
Right. And I think the piece misses a huge opportunity here to really contrast Alonso's approach with the club's deep-seated philosophy, specifically how the players themselves can influence who sits in the dugout.
It is a massive missed opportunity. The submission correctly notes that senior players were voicing concerns and calling for Zinedine Zidane to make a return.
Yeah, but it's presented like a rumor.
Exactly. It's treated like this isolated little detail rather than what it actually is, a critical insight into the power dynamics of that club. We need to unpack why Zidane was the name they went to. It's a political statement, not just a preference.
That's the argument we need to emphasize. The call for Zidane is a powerful collective vote for the established man management style and a clear rejection of the modern coaching approach Alonso was trying to bring in.
Yes.
It turns the story from a simple sacking into this much deeper clash of ideologies. It's the player power base choosing legacy and familiarity over an imported tactical system.
The players were basically saying, we don't need your complex pressing schemes. We need someone who understands us, who understands this club. And Alonso, even as a former player, was an outsider in his methods. And that's the fundamental clash we need to get into. It's just astonishing how quickly that pendulum can swing at Madrid.
And we have the perfect piece of evidence for it in who they chose as his replacement.
Arbeloa.
The concrete example here is to really lean into the detail that Alvaro Arbeloa was immediately appointed. He's a former teammate of Alonso's, sure, but crucially, he's someone who has been coaching inside the academy since 2020. He's an insider.
And that just hammers the point at home, doesn't it? It reinforces this pattern the club has of turning to familiar faces, Zidane, Arbeloa, whenever a tactical outsider fails to click with the culture.
The timeline tells the whole story.
It really does. The players call for Zidane, which signals their rejection of the new way. And the club responds by appointing Arbeloa, which confirms their preference for internal DNA over some external vision. That juxtaposition is what transforms the analysis.
It shows that even today, the culture of the Bernabeu is still more powerful than any coach's whiteboard. And that's the kind of depth we need to reach here. So we've covered a lot of ground. I think there are 3 key takeaways to really strengthen this analysis. They're significant, but they're definitely achievable. First, unify that narrative.
Right.
Focus the story on how the failure in player management directly caused the tactical collapse. And use that Mbappé incident as the clear visual turning point.
Second, flip the structure. You need to lead immediately with the global consequences. What this means for Liverpool, for Tottenham, for Manchester United. That maximizes the urgency by treating his availability as the #1 story.
And finally, deepen that analysis of the institutional conflict. You do that by contrasting the player's call for Zidane with the club's ultimate decision to appoint another insider, Arbeloa. That really reinforces the whole culture clash angle.
Yeah. Taking those steps will transform what is currently a really good collection of news items into a single, sharp, and insightful piece of analysis. One that really captures the full drama and the global significance of this huge managerial shift. We're very eager to see the revised version.